Hello, everybody. I decided to make this video after I saw a few videos around YouTube talking about how people regret buying their Switch 2 and they still prefer the Steam Deck. And I can sympathize. I mean, I get it, but only to an extent because personally, it's been the opposite for me lately. I've been playing more Switch 2 over Steam Deck, and there's a specific reason for that. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit in this video. First of all, the problem isn't the game library. I mean, Steam Deck has a massive game library, even though it doesn't play every title available on Windows. Switch 2 also has a really large library. I mean, when you take into consideration the backwards compatibility plus the original Switch game updates for Switch 2, as well as the first, second, and third party support, it's actually a lot to play on the Switch 2. So I'm not 100% sure why some people are going on this kick like there's nothing to play. I mean, it's like, did you really play everything available from Switch 1 on Switch 2? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But the thing is, it's not the library. I mean, the library for Steam Deck is actually really good. I mean, you can find a lot of great things to play on Steam Deck. So some people might say, well, if it's not the library, then what's the problem? The reason why I play Switch 2 more than Steam Deck these days is specifically because even though Valve did a lot of great things in order to make the experience a lot more seamless, or more like a console in regards to Steam OS, Steam Deck still suffers from a lot of the things that makes PC gaming, a bit intimidating and scary for the average person, and which pushes them towards console gaming, which is more of a plug and play experience. There are still too many hoops, too much tinkering that has to be done with Steam Deck, even though, to be fair, it is far less than what's necessary on any Windows device. Gaming on Windows 11 is a nightmare, which is why I gave up on it years ago to game on Linux instead. Actually, most of the computing I do these days, a good 99.9% of the computing I do these days is on Linux, specifically because of what Windows has become. Gaming is not exempt from this. The thing is, though, with Steam Deck, there are still key problems that can be frustrating, infuriating to deal with on Steam Deck. I just had to deal with one of these issues just a few minutes ago. There's a bunch of apps that needed to be updated on my Steam Deck, and I keep getting this unknown error, some crazy error about a technical difficulty that prevents the update from going through. So now I'm sitting here with 7 gigabytes worth of updates that can't go through for some mysterious reason, some technical reason. And ultimately what I'm probably going to do is just not get the updates. But that's only one example to many of the hoops that people have to jump through in order to deal with gaming on Steam Deck. I mean, you can go down the list. How many times have you booted up your Steam Deck to, you want to jump into a game, but you can't because you have a shader cache download that's like gigabytes large, or driver issues, or compatibility issues, or terminal commands that you need to input in order to get something working, wiki pages that are recommended because something's not working right, installation instructions because you want to put something on your Steam Deck, but the method to do it requires you to jump through even more hoops, or just general operating system issues, anything that ultimately comes in and throws a monkey wrench in the works that prevents you from playing the game when all you want to do is just boot up the system and run the game. Switch 2 allows you to do this just like a traditional console, because that's what it is. It's a portable hybrid console that doesn't have all the great customization features and the wealth of emulation support and all the other things that you can do on Steam Deck. And yeah, I know a lot of people frown on that, but what it does do is it is very reliable. It's stable. I boot that sucker up in a few seconds. I'm in the game. I don't have to worry about all of this other nonsense. And it's to a lesser degree of what's happening with the Xbox ROG Ally. Once you get through the mess of Windows and you actually run the game, it's great. Steam Deck is not that bad, but it's not as quite as straightforward as a lot of people would lead you to believe, especially when you see the emulators and all the other cool stuff, the customizations that you see other people doing. It's not that simple. Another example that comes to mind, Decky. Recently, I had to uninstall Decky from all three of my Steam Decks because it was causing a UI problem that would pretty much break SteamOS. The error message would take up the entire screen, black screen with white text. And the recommendation was to restart Steam, restart Decky, or reboot the system. And to this day, I have no idea what that error was or what caused it. All I know is I would reboot the system, and sometimes after a reboot, the error would reoccur, causing the UI to break, and I would have to reboot again. Now, I understand the nature of Decky. Decky is basically, it's the gravy. It's the icing on the cake. It allows you to go into the store. You can download all kinds of different customization options and additional features that Valve didn't initially put into the Steam Deck. And yes, for a long time, I used a lot of those features and it was great. You know, the things that you get, like all the aftermarket things you can do on your Steam Deck. But when it starts to break things, when it takes away from the core function of actually gaming, that's a problem. And the initial problem was when Decky Recorder it wasn't reliable. It was unstable. And look, I give the developers much credit because I know, you know, trying to get something like that running reliably is tough. I mean, I take nothing away from that. It's very tough. But there comes a point in time where if you're going to push this to people, it has to work. And it just got to the point where Decky Recorder just didn't work. It wasn't reliable. You would record game footage and think you got some great moments on video, only to find out, nah, Decky Recorder corrupted the file and you didn't record anything. Valve kind of fixed this with their own recorder, even though after a Steam Deck update earlier this year, that broke as well. And fortunately, they were able to go in and fix that. But again, that's just another one of those things where you depend on the functionality and it doesn't work after an update. It sounds very like Windows because that happens a lot on Windows. Now, the final straw was the UI breakage that I mentioned. That was what ultimately made me say, okay, that's it. I'm done. And uninstalled Decky from all of my Steam Decks because at the end of the day, I just want to run my games on Steam Deck. I was looking at the Switch 2. I uninstalled Decky after the Switch 2 debuted, after I bought it. And I was looking over at my Switch 2 after going through the mess with Decky. And I'm just like, dude, I just want my Steam Deck to run as reliably as my Switch 2. Why can it not do that? And it's a rhetorical question. I mean, of course I know the answer. But that's ultimately what made me start to strip out all of that extra aftermarket stuff that I put on my Steam Deck, because at the end of the day, I just need it stable so I can play my games. All the rest of this stuff is just fluff. And that's why these days, when it comes time to game, I find myself reaching more for the Switch 2 over the Steam Deck because it's reliable. When I hit the power button, I don't have to worry about whether it's going to actually resume from sleep, because I've actually had my Steam Decks crash, like the game that was in memory would crash, or there have been times where the system itself would just crash after I tried to, resume from sleep. Now, to be fair, this was few and far between, but the reality is it did happen. Now, on Switch 2, I've never had that happen to me. So it's like, again, it's that the reliability. You want your kit to work. You don't want to hear any excuses about this, that, and the third. No, you just, bro, I got a little time on my hands. I just want to get into the game and play. So that's one of the reasons why, for me personally, I have to kind of disagree with a lot of people with these videos saying that they prefer Steam Deck over Switch 2 and so forth and so on, because at the end of the day, it's console versus PC all over again. One of the key reasons why people chose console over PC and still continue to choose console over PC is because it's plug and play. Yes, consoles have become more sophisticated. In a lot of ways, they become more like PCs. But at the end of the day, I start my game up, I start playing. Plug and play. PC is not there yet. Steam Deck is the closest that we've gotten to it thanks to Valve and SteamOS. But even Steam Deck is not quite there yet. There's still too many things, too many hoops, too many problems, driver issues and, just mysterious crashes. One day your game is working perfectly. The next day, for some reason, it won't boot. It's compatibility issues where a game is listed as Steam Deck verified. You play the game and it's broken. Glitches, bad performance, it won't boot. I mean, things like this. This is the reason why, even though people, are pretty adamant about how they feel on the matter, this is why I disagree. And for me, especially if the game is on Switch 2 and Steam Deck, like Daemon X Machina, Titanic Scion, I just beat that on both. And the only reason the experience was worse on Switch 2 was because it didn't run at 60 frames per second. That's it. As far as everything else, it was awesome. Crisis 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, Fast Fusion. I just got 100% on that. Awesome experiences. And I didn't have to worry about any of the extra baggage that the PC comes with. So that's the video. That's all I wanted to say. And look, I understand where a lot of people are coming from who feel the reverse. I just can't agree with it from my own personal experience. Like, I'm looking at my Steam Deck right now and I'm still seeing these technical issues popping up because these updates won't go through. It's just like, what the hell, man? But that's it. That's all I got. This is a kind of an impromptu video. So, if you watched it through to the end, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I mean, it's kind of off the cuff. I was really feeling it today. So, thanks again for sticking with it. Take care.